connect. As the evening progressed, we shared laughter and enjoyed each other's company. It seemed like the start of something promising. After the dinner date, we decided to take a stroll through a nearby park. The atmosphere was relaxed, and we continued our conversation under the glow of streetlights. It was a pleasant night, and I felt a genuine connection forming. However, as we walked through a quieter section of the park, my date's behavior took an unexpected turn. She began to ask probing questions, delving into personal topics with an intensity that caught me off guard. The once easy-flowing conversation now felt forced and uncomfortable. Trying to redirect the conversation to lighter subjects, I suggested grabbing a coffee at a nearby cafe. However, my date seemed fixated on discussing deep and personal matters. It became clear that our initial connection was unraveling, replaced by an awkward tension. Feeling uneasy, I suggested ending the night, and my date agreed. We walked back to our respective cars, and as we said our goodbyes, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. In the days that followed, the woman's messages took on a different tone. She began expressing intense feelings of attachment, and even hinted at the idea of a long-term commitment. The rapid progression of emotions left me feeling overwhelmed and uncomfortable. Despite my attempts to communicate my concerns, the woman's messages became increasingly demanding. She insisted on knowing my whereabouts at all times and bombarded me with calls and texts. It was a stark contrast to the initial connection we had shared, and I realized that the relationship was becoming toxic. In an effort to distance myself from the situation, I decided to end communication with her. However, the woman's persistence escalated. She showed up uninvited at my workplace and even at my home, leaving me deeply unsettled. Fearing for my safety and well-being, I sought help from the authorities and obtained a restraining order. It was a harrowing experience that made me question the nature of online connections and the potential risks involved. This story serves as a cautionary tale, highlighting the importance of being vigilant and setting boundaries when navigating the world of online dating. While many people find genuine connections through these platforms, it's crucial to prioritize personal safety and trust one's instincts in unfamiliar situations. To say, but I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. We both got out of our cars, and she led me to the front door. As we entered, I couldn't help but notice the dim lighting and the creaking floorboards. The interior of the house felt somewhat eerie, and I started to wonder if I had made a mistake by agreeing to come here. She showed me around, and it became evident that the house was indeed quite old. The furniture appeared outdated, and the air carried a musty scent. Despite the unsettling ambience, she seemed comfortable in her surroundings. We settled into the living room, and that's when she shared some personal details about her life. She spoke about her family, her job, and her experiences growing up in the countryside. The conversation flowed, but an underlying unease lingered within me. After a while, she suggested watching a movie together. As we sat on the worn-out couch, the atmosphere grew more awkward. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the whole situation. Midway through the movie, she excused herself and went to the kitchen. As I waited, I glanced around the room and noticed some peculiar items: old photographs, antique objects, and a general sense of neglect. It was clear that the house held stories, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there were hidden secrets as well. When she returned, she seemed distant, and the unease between us intensified. I found myself making excuses to leave, citing an early morning and the need to get some rest. She walked me to the door, and as I stepped outside, a sense of relief washed over me. Driving back, I reflected on the strange encounter. The isolated location, the aged house, and the mysterious atmosphere left me with an unsettling feeling. It was a reminder that sometimes appearances can be deceiving, and venturing into unfamiliar territories carries inherent risks. In the days that followed, our communication dwindled, and the strange memory of that night lingered in the back of my mind. It was a lesson in trusting instincts and recognizing when a situation feels uncomfortable, even if it's just a seemingly innocent visit to someone's home. Feeling a bit unsure about her, nevertheless, we decided to meet up for a casual coffee date. On the day of the date, I drove to the agreed-upon coffee shop, and Riley arrived shortly after. At first glance, she seemed normal, friendly, and similar to her online pictures. We ordered our coffees and found a table to sit down and chat. As we started talking, I noticed that Riley had a peculiar way of expressing herself. Her stories seemed exaggerated, and she frequently laughed at inappropriate moments. Despite the oddities, I tried to maintain a polite and open-minded demeanor. After finishing our coffees, Riley suggested going for a walk in a nearby park. As we strolled, her conversation became increasingly erratic. She spoke about conspiracy theories, UFO sightings, and government secrets. I started to feel a bit uneasy, wondering if she was serious or just trying to be eccentric for the sake of it. To change the topic, I asked Riley about her hobbies and interests. Unexpectedly, she revealed an intense fascination with taxidermy. She spoke animatedly about her collection of preserved animals and how she enjoyed preparing them herself. The conversation took a bizarre turn, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of discomfort. Deciding to cut the date short, I made an excuse about having prior commitments and suggested we part ways. Riley seemed unfazed and bid me farewell with an enigmatic smile. I left the park feeling relieved that the peculiar encounter was over. In the following days, Riley continued to message me, sharing more unconventional thoughts and stories. It became evident that her interests and perspectives were far from mainstream. Unsettled, I gradually distanced myself, and our communication eventually ceased. Looking back, it was a peculiar and unforgettable experience. The date with Riley served as a reminder that online interactions can sometimes lead to unexpected encounters with individuals whose quirks and interests may not align with our own. It was a lesson in navigating the diverse landscape of online dating, where each connection can unfold in unpredictable ways. To me, on the SnapMap, in a state of panic, I closed the curtains and turned on all the lights in my room. I could hear my heart pounding, and the sense of vulnerability overwhelmed me. Moments later, I received a response from Riley on Snapchat. She nonchalantly replied, "Just wanted to see you. Why are you so upset?" Her casual tone heightened my anxiety, as if she couldn't comprehend the invasion of privacy and the fear she had instilled in me. Fueled by a mix of fear and anger, I told her that it was completely inappropriate to come to someone's house uninvited and stare through their window. I insisted that she leave immediately. However, Riley's response was chilling. She simply said, "I thought it would be cute." Disturbed by her lack of understanding and blatant disregard for boundaries, I blocked her on Snapchat and all other forms of communication. The incident left me with a profound sense of unease and violated privacy. I questioned the intentions of someone who would go to such lengths to invade my personal space. In the following days, I considered reporting the incident to the authorities, but without concrete evidence of malicious intent, I hesitated. Instead, I focused on enhancing my online privacy settings and being more cautious about sharing personal information. This unsettling experience served as a stark reminder of the potential risks associated with online interactions. It reinforced the importance of establishing clear boundaries, protecting one's privacy, and being cautious about the information shared on social media platforms. Backstreet. As I arrived, my nerves started to kick in, but I brushed off the uneasy feeling, convincing myself that it was just first date jitters. Derek's house was a modest one, blending into the neighborhood seamlessly. I parked my car, took a deep breath, and approached the front door. Derek opened it almost immediately, wearing a friendly smile. He looked just as he did in the pictures, tall, strong, with that blondish hair. We exchanged greetings, and he invited me inside. The atmosphere was casual, and Derek seemed genuinely easygoing. We settled in the living room, ordered a pizza, and picked a movie to watch. The conversation flowed smoothly, and any initial reservations I had started to fade away. It felt like a typical evening with a new acquaintance. As the movie played, though, I noticed a subtle shift in Derek's demeanor. His friendly demeanor became more intense, and he started making slightly inappropriate comments. It was a sudden change that caught me off guard, and I began to feel uneasy once again. I tried to steer the conversation back to safer topics, but Derek persisted with his uncomfortable remarks. By the time the movie ended, I felt a growing sense of discomfort. I glanced at the clock and realized it was much later than I had initially planned to stay. Derek, however, suggested we watch another movie, making me feel hesitant about leaving. Trying to maintain politeness, I agreed to watch one more, hoping that the situation would not escalate. Little did I know that this decision would lead to an unexpected turn of events, shaping the course of that peculiar night in 2015. Out into the dimly lit parking lot, the motel's exterior had seen better days, with peeling paint and flickering lights casting an eerie ambience. I hesitated for a moment, glancing around at the few other cars scattered across the parking lot. As I approached the entrance, my phone buzzed with another message from Derek. He apologized once again for the unconventional meeting spot and reassured me that everything would be fine. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, I reasoned that maybe his story about moving apartments was genuine, and I didn't want to judge too quickly. I located Derek's room, the one with the lights on, and tentatively knocked on the door. He opened it promptly, smiling as if to dispel any lingering discomfort. The room was surprisingly tidy, but the musty smell of old carpet lingered in the air. Derek explained that he was in the process of moving his belongings from the storage unit to his new place. He invited me to sit, and we continued our conversation. However, the uneasiness from earlier still lingered in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As we talked, Derek's demeanor remained friendly, but there was an underlying tension in the air. I couldn't pinpoint exactly what was causing my discomfort, but I started to question the authenticity of his story. I decided to keep the conversation light, avoiding any deeper topics. Eventually, Derek suggested we order some food, and we continued chatting while waiting for the delivery. The night unfolded with an odd mix of normalcy and unease, leaving me torn between trusting Derek's explanations and listening to my instincts. The shadows in the dimly lit motel room seemed to dance with uncertainty, mirroring the conflicting emotions within me. No to the date, explaining that I wasn't comfortable with it. Ryan persisted, attempting to convince me to change my mind, but I stood firm in my decision. As the day passed, Ryan's messages became increasingly aggressive. He accused me of leading him on and questioned my intentions. Despite the unsettling turn of events, I maintained my boundaries and reiterated that I wasn't interested in pursuing anything further. That evening, as I went about my routine, I received a barrage of texts from an unknown number. The messages were threatening and filled with profanity. It was clear that Ryan was upset, but the intensity of his reaction left me shaken. Worried about the situation escalating, I decided to confide in a close friend. Together, we reviewed the messages, realizing the severity of the issue. Concerned for my safety, my friend encouraged me to report the incidents to the authorities. In the following days, I took precautions, adjusting my privacy settings on social media and informing friends and family about the situation. Ryan's messages continued, revealing a disturbing persistence that left me on edge. Despite the fear, I refused to let it control me. I reported the harassment to Tinder, providing screenshots of the threatening messages. While the platform took action against Ryan's account, the unsettling feeling lingered. Over time, the messages gradually subsided, and I began to regain a sense of normalcy. Reflecting on the experience, I realized the importance of staying vigilant in the online dating world and trusting my instincts. It was a harrowing lesson that highlighted the potential dangers hidden behind the digital facade of dating apps. No to the date, explaining that I wasn't comfortable with it. Ryan persisted, attempting to convince me to change my mind, but I stood firm in my decision. As the day passed, Ryan's messages became increasingly aggressive. He accused me of leading him on and questioned my intentions. Despite the unsettling turn of events, I maintained my boundaries and reiterated that I wasn't interested in pursuing anything further. That evening, as I went about my routine, I received a barrage of texts from an unknown number. The messages were threatening and filled with profanity. It was clear that Ryan was upset, but the intensity of his reaction left me shaken. Worried about the situation escalating, I decided to confide in a close friend. Together, we reviewed the messages, realizing the severity of the issue. Concerned for my safety, my friend encouraged me to report the incidents to the authorities. In the following days, I took precautions, adjusting my privacy settings on social media and informing friends and family about the situation. Ryan's messages continued, revealing a disturbing persistence that left me on edge. Despite the fear, I refused to let it control me. I reported the harassment to Tinder, providing screenshots of the threatening messages. While the platform took action against Ryan's account, the unsettling feeling lingered. Over time, the messages gradually subsided, and I began to regain a sense of normalcy. Reflecting on the experience, I realized the importance of staying vigilant in the online dating world and trusting my instincts. It was a harrowing lesson that highlighted the potential dangers hidden behind the digital facade of dating apps. The police were on their way, and I should stay on the line. Fear gripped me as I huddled in the living room, anxiously awaiting the arrival of the police. As I waited, the noises outside my window persisted. I could hear muffled voices and the occasional thud. It felt like an eternity before the distant wail of sirens reached my ears, signaling the approaching police. Relief washed over me as the authorities took control of the situation. I guided them to my bedroom window, where they discovered signs of an attempted break-in. The man had fled by the time they arrived, leaving behind a chilling sense of vulnerability. The police took my statement and assured me that they would increase patrols in the area. I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that Ryan, the persistent and threatening Tinder match, might be connected to this terrifying incident. In the aftermath, I took additional steps to enhance my security. I installed better locks on the windows and doors, and my roommate and I decided to be more cautious about sharing personal information online. As the weeks passed, the police investigation yielded little information. The connection between the Tinder harassment and the attempted break-in remained unclear. Still, the experience served as a stark reminder of the potential dangers that lurk in the digital realm and spill into the physical world. To this day, the memory of that unsettling night lingers, a testament to the importance of vigilance and caution in navigating the unpredictable landscape of online interactions. After chatting for a while, Mike suggested that we go on a hike together, and I thought it sounded like a good idea. We agreed on a nearby trail, and the day of the hike arrived. I met Mike at the trailhead, and we set off on our outdoor adventure. The hike started off well, and we engaged in casual conversation as we explored the scenic trail. Mike seemed friendly and easygoing, and the initial awkwardness of meeting someone from a dating app began to fade away. We shared stories, laughed, and enjoyed the natural surroundings. As we hiked deeper into the trail, Mike suggested veering off the beaten path to explore a less traveled route. I hesitated for a moment, but agreed, assuming it would add a bit of spontaneity to the outing. Little did I know, this decision would lead to an unexpected turn of events. As we navigated through the dense foliage, the atmosphere shifted. The surroundings became eerily quiet, and the once inviting trail felt increasingly isolated. I started to feel uneasy, sensing that we were deviating from the originally agreed-upon route. Suddenly, Mike's demeanor changed. He became less talkative and more focused on our surroundings. I began to question the decision to venture off the main trail. The unease grew as Mike led us deeper into the woods, seemingly oblivious to my discomfort. At one point, I discreetly checked my phone to see if I had any cell signal. Unfortunately, the reception was minimal, making it challenging to communicate with anyone. Concerned about the situation, I subtly suggested that we should head back to the main trail. Mike, however, seemed resistant to the idea. He mentioned wanting to show me something further along the path. My instincts kicked in, and I firmly insisted on turning back. Sensing my resolve, Mike reluctantly agreed, and we retraced our steps. The atmosphere lightened as we returned to the main trail, and I felt a sense of relief. We continued the hike, but the initial comfort and trust had eroded. As we reached the trailhead, we said our goodbyes, and I left with a mixture of confusion and caution. This experience served as a reminder of the importance of communication and setting clear boundaries, especially when meeting someone from a dating app in an unfamiliar setting. While the intention may have been innocent, the deviation from the agreed-upon plan created an unsettling atmosphere that left me more cautious about future encounters. Parked my car and quickly got out. The car behind me parked a little way down the street, and I felt a chill of unease. I hurried to my front door and went inside, locking it behind me. Once inside, I peeked through the blinds to see the car still parked on the street. I couldn't make out the driver's face, but the fact that they followed me all the way to my house was deeply unsettling. I decided not to confront the situation directly, fearing that it might escalate. I stayed vigilant, periodically checking to see if the car was still there. After about 20 minutes, the car eventually drove away. Relieved, I tried to make sense of the strange and unnerving experience. As I reflected on the evening, it became apparent that Mike's disappearance at the restaurant and the subsequent car following me were too coincidental. I couldn't shake the feeling that Mike might have been in that car, watching my every move. Feeling a mix of frustration and fear, I blocked Mike on Tinder and all other communication channels. The incident served as a stark reminder of the potential risks associated with online dating and meeting strangers in person. From that day forward, I became more cautious about sharing my location and details with people I met online. This unsettling encounter underscored the importance of trusting one's instincts and prioritizing personal safety, even in seemingly harmless situations. The police arrived surprisingly quickly, and as soon as they did, the car suddenly turned its engine back on and drove away. I provided the officers with a description of the vehicle, emphasizing that it had been following me after a failed date. The police assured me they would patrol the area and investigate the situation. Feeling shaken and uneasy, I decided to stay vigilant. The officers took my statement and advised me to contact them immediately if I noticed any further suspicious activity. In the following days, I remained cautious, constantly checking my surroundings and varying my routines. The unsettling encounter with Mike, coupled with the mysterious car following me, left a lasting impact on my sense of security. The incident prompted me to reassess the information I shared online and the precautions I took when meeting people from dating apps. It served as a stark reminder that personal safety should always be a top priority, even in seemingly routine situations. As time passed, the memory of that night faded, but the lessons learned about online interactions and personal security remained ingrained in my approach to dating and meeting new people. The experience underscored the importance of trusting one's instincts and taking swift action when faced with potential threats to personal safety. I'm sorry to hear about that unnerving experience, and it's understandable why it would have left you feeling disturbed. It's crucial to prioritize your safety and trust your instincts in such situations. Blocking Mike and involving the police were appropriate actions to take. If you ever feel uneasy or encounter similar situations in the future, don't hesitate to reach out to law enforcement or someone you trust. It's unfortunate that you had to go through such an unsettling encounter, but I'm relieved to hear that you haven't had any further contact with Mike since that night. Remember to prioritize your personal safety, especially when meeting people from online platforms. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation or have concerns, trust your gut and take the necessary steps to ensure your well-being. If you have any more questions or need further support, feel free to reach out. Stay safe